Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 2nd of March, comes to you from London. And I'm wearing my sunflower for the Ukrainian people. Sunflower being their national flower, and of course, they are the largest producer of sunflower oil in the world. And of course, the picture in Ukraine is deteriorating, and that is having a very big impact on energy prices, seeing massive moves this morning. We did actually put out a report to clients last night on MBP and TTF, and in these reports we give the upside targets for these products all the way. We give the short, medium term and long term upside targets, and some of these targets you just will not believe. Prepare for an era of much higher prices for energy, and the same for coal. Of course, we put out our oil report back in January, saying $150 was our long-term target for oil, and we had the interim targets pushing higher. We've got an interim target to the 120s, but interesting, we've got 116, 117 on the 1-minute charts, on the 60-minute charts, so 118 is looking very doable from here, but our target is 150, and I know that's a target that a lot of people will struggle to believe. Now, we'll come back to the energy mix in a minute, but just let's look at what's going on in the major markets. Green on this screen. If we go to the major markets, of course, red on stocks generally. So we're seeing that mixed picture, and of course higher energy prices filtering through to the global economy. So the dollar is looking strong, pushing higher. We've said from the outset for months now that we saw 2022 as the year of the dollar, and that's very much, it's bullish on all three time frames. Remembering this is my weekly, daily and 60-minute chart with the corresponding point and figure targets, long term, medium term and short term view of the market. And so if we look to the euro, that is actually sinking lower against the dollar. We've got downside targets here on the euro, and we are falling through this 111 level. So that's really quite critical, activating a downside target, 14% lower, and some very big downside targets for the euro. We're going to see turmoil in markets generally this year. It's been expedited by the Russian crisis, but of course inflationary fears, all sorts of things playing through to that. Sterling sitting at 133, looking weaker against that stronger dollar. Against the euro, just holding steady at around 120, still has the upper hand on that longer and medium term chart. Bitcoin had a big rise yesterday. A lot of debate about crypto at the moment, but we are seeing that move back into short-term bullish territory and really finding long-term cloud support. The target to 83,000 is very much there, provided we don't break that 30,000 low that we saw last year. So really quite significant. The S&P 500 index sold off 1.5% yesterday. We activated this downside target last week, so no big surprises here. We're heading to those targets. There's two in train, a new one generated here. We move below that, we activate that. Multiple targets to the downside tells us that's where we're going. The Nasdaq has a downside target some 27% below where we are now. You cannot ignore that target, it's there. We are seeing in the futures just flat this morning, a little bit of respite in the US markets. Maybe today we'll just see a little bit of a steadying, but the reality is the VIX volatility is now convincingly in the 30s. Remember, we said we're fearful about markets when we're above that 30 level. In the 20s, we're relatively fearful, and below 20, where the markets are not so fearful. But above 30, we are in fearful territory. The VIX is starting to trend up, and we shouldn't be surprised to see this increasing. We've got targets to much higher, and you can use the point and figure targets there, of course, as well. The DAX in Germany continues to fall. Germany, of course, being has real exposure to Russia, having relied very heavily on Russian energy, and the higher prices that Germany will have to pay for energy. And we're seeing here multiple targets on the short-term chart. That the DAX is going some 12% lower there. We've got a 5% downside target longer term. The CAC 40 is not immune from this either. Downside potential here of 9 and 10%. It's all in the targets. Bearish below the cloud here. The Asian market has been relatively insulated from this in recent days, but we are now seeing it falling away. Tokyo down nearly 2%. Downside targets activated here as well. The Hang Seng down nearly 2% as well. Has been bearish for some time, making 2-year lows. So really looking quite bad there as well. China down just slightly. India down nearly 2% as well. So we are seeing a fall away pretty much across the board, and the Aussie market. So we'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but soft commodities continue to rise. Wheat's looking very strong. These targets being met. We've talked about wheat before. Corn also higher at 2%. Gold still holding that $1,900 mark. Remember, we said that's our new level. Above 1,900, we're bullish. Below, we're pulling back, but we've got upside targets to $2,400 on gold, and they're activated. So that's where we're going. Same with silver. We've got silver down this morning, but pushing higher, bullish on the medium and short-term charts. And the precious metals, platinum and palladium, have also been rising. US 10-year yields have fallen way back. The Federal Reserve now not expected to raise rates. That's taken the upside targets 2.7% off the chart, but we have pulled all the way back to 1.73. We had these targets and we pulled back to those targets. You've got to watch these targets, but once we've got this pullback, that does arm us for another rise. So we need to be aware of that. Looking at the energy mix now, we've got Brent crude running higher. The targets we've talked about, 117, 118, that's where we're going. Looking at US nat gas, that's bullish as well. We put our report out to clients this morning and given targets for that, but we can see on the 1-minute chart. This is for today. This is my daily, my 60-minute, 1 minute. This is for today, and we're seeing here we're pushing above the cloud. Bullish again on US nat gas. Carbon falling further, really just plummeting below the cloud. We will put out a report to clients on what the potential downside is. This will give us a downside target once we stop, pull back, and then activate. So we're watching that. And of course, we have put these reports out on gas prices this morning with targets. The short-term targets already been met, and the same with MBP. Just keep an eye on the reports. Really challenging in these markets, but we are going much, much higher. And the long-term targets, or medium and long-term targets for gas prices in Europe, I'm afraid you will not believe them, but they're there in the reports that we've been putting out to clients. Same with German power, it's pushing higher, and even Nordic power. Looking at the cow for Nordic power, we've got these targets now pushing much, much higher for Nordic power, so that's going to be quite key as well. So keep an eye on those charts, and we've put, again, reports out to clients this morning in that regard. So look at those reports. They're there in your enterprise client. If you want to see all these reports, they're all written. They're all there for you to look at. The global market report, the coal report, gas reports, power reports, they're all there. This morning's energy report. If you want these reports, download a copy of our enterprise system, and you'll have all these reports at your disposal with all the trends and targets as well. So you can go through the charts and see what we're saying. And there are the targets today that we've given for MBP. Those were given first thing this morning, and then of course in the longer term reports we've given the all the price targets for TTF and coal. So take a look at that. That's it for today. Hang in there. Markets are going to be really turbulent these coming days. Of course, events in Ukraine. Spare a thought for the Ukrainian people. Wear your flower and your blue and yellow. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.